It's easy to talk yourself into a 9mm pistol that looks like a good buy until you start stacking up the receipts and realize just how many never earned their keep. Doesn't matter how sharp you thought your shopping was or how many top picks lists you scrolled through. If you've owned more than a handful, you've already seen some of your cash disappear on guns that promised more than they delivered. I'm not here to tell you every pistol on this list was a disaster. Most of them worked just fine on paper. The problem was simple. What you paid and what you got never lined up. By the time the dust settled, it was clear which ones just didn't make sense for the money. And stick around, because the last spot on this list, that one's the most common money trap I've seen folks fall into year after year. I remember picking up the Glock 43X thinking, all right, this is it. The carry gun that solves the size problem without giving up what works. It was in every shop case, plastered across every forum. And if you asked 10 shooters, at least half called it a must-have. So, like everyone else, I figured the crowd couldn't be wrong. But once the honeymoon wore off, the small details started showing. That slim frame with the longer grip, it printed more than some of my chunkier pistols. Pocket carry was out the window. Half my t-shirts showed the outline. At the range, it ran fine, but that's just it. Fine. Never once did it shoot above its weight, and I started seeing other guys getting the same or better groups with pistols that cost less or just felt better in the hand. It took a little while, but the reality set in. I wasn't paying for an unbeatable shooter. I was paying Glock tax for a name and a shape. There are plenty of slim 9mm out there now. Some smoother, some cheaper, most just as reliable. Looking back, the 43X never made sense for what it cost me. It's not a bad gun. It just never gave back what I put in. Last year, right before the Black Friday sale rush, I found myself at a gun counter outside my town. The Taurus G3C was front and center. Price just low enough to make you second guess every pricier option behind the glass. That kind of tag pulls you in. I told myself, it's worth a shot. Worst case, I'm only out a couple of bills. I knew I wasn't the only one. Half the shooters I run into have tried a Taurus at least once, just chasing the budget win. After a few range trips, and the spending started creeping in. The trigger wasn't right, so I upgraded. The sights needed work. Another charge. Picked up a spare mag too. All small stuff, easy to justify in the moment, but the stack grew quick. And then, despite all the tweaking, the G3C failed me. Not once, twice. Each time I was left standing there, clicking on a dead trigger, running through what I could have done differently. The Piste wasn't a disaster, but it never felt truly reliable, no matter how much I put into it. When I finally totaled up the real spend, this budget buy had crossed the line, and I still never felt like I'd gotten ahead. And if you thought this was as bad as wallet creep gets, wait until you see how deep the money pit goes before we hit number one. I've had a Beretta 92 FS in the safe for years. There's no denying its reputation, reliable, legendary, built like a tank. For a long time, I loved having a piece of that history. It felt like owning a little slice of every cop movie and every military story I grew up on. But after enough years of real use, the shine started to fade. Not from shooting, but from everything that came after. Maintenance with the Beretta is a chore. Cleaning means dealing with the more small parts and stubborn reassembly than any modern pistol I own. It's always a process, never a quick strip and wipe like the latest polymer guns. But it's not just the upkeep. When I've tried to carry it, the Beretta's heavy frame and wide grip made concealment a losing game. It might look sleek in a duty holster or on the silver screen, but under a t-shirt, it's obvious and awkward. What really stands out now is the price. These days, the 92 FS is priced right up there with the best new models, but it doesn't reflect what modern carry actually looks like. In the end, it's reliable, sure, but owning one means you're paying nostalgia tax for a pistol that just doesn't fit real-world needs anymore. Not long ago, I was out near Fort Worth, running through a few drills at the range. Guy next to me was about my age, and I noticed he was putting rounds through an FN 509 tactical suppressor sights, threaded barrel, the works. We got to talking. He let out a heavy sigh and said, "This thing was my darling for months. Now it's just a pain. Turned into a bitch I can't get rid of." I asked him what changed. He laughed, shook his head. "All those features look great on YouTube. Tall sights, optic ready, the whole tactical checklist, but I never carry it. Never bought a suppressor. Half the time it just sits at home because it's too bulky for daily use." We traded stories about how easy it is to get pulled in by features you don't actually need. His frustration hit home. You end up spending for upgrades and extras that stay locked in the safe. The FN509 Tactical is built solid, no question. But if you're honest about what you really use, you're often just buying features for bragging rights, not real life. That's money that could have gone somewhere else. And speaking of spending for status, the next gun on this list is a whole different level of boutique logic. I'll admit it, the Staccato C2 wasn't a need buy, it was an ego buy. I wanted to know if it really was in a league of its own. All that reputation, all those magazine covers, everyone online making it sound like carrying one puts you on another level. So I went for it, wrote the check, took it home. There's a moment when you open the box where it just feels like you've made it. You set it next to the rest, and for a second, nothing else matters. But somewhere down the line, that shine wore off. Not all at once, I'm more like a slow leak. The grip was thick, the weight started to nag at me, but I kept thinking, it's a Staccato. It's supposed to be worth it. Every time I left the house, I had to convince myself to carry it instead of something I already trusted. I kept looking for proof it was better, waiting for a moment to feel right about the price. That moment never landed. If I'm honest, I wasn't paying for an upgrade. I was paying to feel like I'd made it, hoping that would be enough. It never was. My sister's daughter, Wendy, finally scraped together enough for her first 9mm, and she picked the Ruger LCP Max for one reason. It looked like freedom. She loved that it was feather light, small enough to disappear on a belt or in a pocket. Finally, something she could carry anywhere without a second thought. She couldn't stop grinning the day she got it. We planned her first range trip like it was a milestone. That smile didn't last. First mag, her hands were already stinging. The recoil was snappy, the grip unforgiving, and every shot felt like work instead of progress. Wendy tried to tough it out, ran a couple more boxes, but the excitement drained out fast. She said it best, "It's easy to carry because you never want to shoot it." She started skipping range days. The pistol got left at home more and more. For all that comfort on the belt, the LCP Max turned into the least used gun in her collection, and probably the one that taught her the most expensive lesson. Worst thing about a 9mm isn't just a harsh recoil. It's a gun that kills your will to train. That's money wasted every time. And if you think that's rough, the next one isn't just the biggest letdown, it's the most hyped 9mm out there. But is it worst? The Glock 26 was supposed to be the answer for me. I waited for a deal, traded away a gun I actually liked, and told myself I was upgrading to the ultimate do-everything pistol. For a while, I tried to believe it. I bought holsters, more than I care to admit, grip extensions, mag base plates, the works. There's still a box under my bed stuffed with every accessory I hoped would make the 26 fit just right. It became a running joke. If I couldn't fix it with gear, maybe it would just click on its own. But it never did. The thing was always too thick to disappear, the grip always too short to feel right in my hand, and it never shot as well as any full size I owned. The compromises stacked up, but I kept spending time, money, patience, trying to turn it into something it would never be. Looking back, the most money I ever wasted wasn't on a lemon. It was on a gun I kept forcing myself to love long after I knew better. The Glock 26 taught me that compromise is just another way to stay stuck. And the cost adds up whether you want to admit it or not. And if you think the main list was rough, just wait, because the bonus picks are where the real curveballs land. Some of these nearly made the top spots, and a few will probably have you questioning your own favorites. Last spring, I found myself at a small range outside Reno, Nevada, tuning up my Walther PDP Compact. I'd bought it for its slide cuts and optic ready build, slapped a quality red dot on top, and even shelled out for a holster I convinced myself would finally make a premium carry setup feel right. Next bench over, a plainclothes cop with a badge clipped to his belt was breaking in his own PDP. We struck up a conversation, two shooters who fell for the same hype. He smiled and tallied up his upgrades. Night sights, custom holster, premium optic, over $800 already. At the range, the PDP held its own. Tracks clean. Trigger crisp. No obvious flaws on paper, but then he got honest. After a couple weeks trying to carry it off duty, the tall slide and extra weight kept printing and annoying him. Just like that, it went from daily piece to range-only companion. He joked he could have bought another gun and pocketed the change. That stuck with me. Great shooter for paper, expensive carry experiment in real life. If there's one thing that stands out after running through this list, it's that best value rarely matches up with biggest hype. Sometimes a pistol looks smart on the shelf and ended up collecting dust simply because the real-world payoff never justified the price. None of these were total flops. They just didn't fit the bill for the money once you stepped outside the gun shop glow. If you've bought a 9mm that made less and less sense the longer you owned it, drop your story below. It's never about chasing perfect. It's about finding what actually matches how you shoot, carry, and live. The smartest move isn't spending less or more, but knowing what delivers. The goal isn't buying the best gun, it's getting the one that works for you. I'm Steve, and I'll see you next time.